Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's video is going to be about the latest hero class in Ragnarok Online, which is Nidhogg. Nidhogg is a support class, and you can build it in a way that it does deal damage, but at the very base level, it is a support class. It's also a hero class, and if you don't know what hero classes are, hero classes provides a new, distinct flavor to your gameplay. I would say it's a much more simplified version of the existing classes, um, in a certain sense, maybe also even a little bit stronger, depending on how you build it. But it just provides a very different experience compared to your classic classes. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the finer details about Nidhogg, some of the things that may not seem so obvious when you read the skill descriptions. Just like with any of our videos, all of this is based on my interpretation of the in-game codes. And so there could be could be some mistakes made along the way, but in general, yeah, I think I'm pretty spot on with my interpretation of this. So yeah, let's dive into it. Okay, for the first one, it's Fetters, which is the core hero skill. Now, just like any other hero class, Nidhogg has a core hero skill, which can only be upgraded by unlocking the second line of her runes. Now, the first skill or the core hero skill is called Fetters. Um, it goes up to level 7 and it passively grants Nidhogg damage reduction. Um, now, this also extends to her draconic tribe, or the ones she casts Mother of Dragons on. The damage reduction that she gets and she passes, you know, to her allies via the skill is kind of like a final reduction, sort of. I mean, there really isn't a final reduction value in the game, right? And so, in general, when you say it's a final damage reduction, it either goes to result dam res, or there's a very specific code for that. And so there's very few parameters that are really additives and just goes into the same container. Um, Fetters, for example, uses Dragon Reduc. Now, Dragon Reduc is part of a series of conditional multiplications to damage, which, it's before it reaches the end of the formula. And so some of the final damage reduction, which resides into result dem res, and then this one, Dragon Reduc, they're not additive. They're multiplicative, which means you get damage, you multiply it by the first value, and then the result of that you multiply it by the second value. And so Fetters is final damage reduction, so it does reduce whatever attack that whatever damage contribution coming from attack or refine attack or the skill true damage. So those kind of things. Um, but yeah, this is Fetters. We're gonna go through a different reduction later on, and we're just gonna run through the maths on how they actually interact with one another in a bit. Okay, the second one, still on Fetters. Once you reach level 4, 20% of, or a certain percentage of Nidhogg's attack damage is converted into a shield. So which means as long as she deals damage, she generates a shield for her and her draconic tribe, which lasts for about 5 seconds. Um, Now, the way it's going to work, it's actually very similar to how Tuna Party works. So it gets a certain value, and then that acts as a shield, which first gets consumed before your HP gets consumed. Now, for Nidhogg, of course, the main source of damage would be the Streamer of Fallen Knight, right? So that's how you generate your shield. So you see that the glowing shield around yourself, right? And so the value of the shield is always a percentage of the damage that you're dealing. And so this is the point where some people prefer to have Nidhogg, to build Nidhogg in a way that it is able to deal damage because it also generates a shield. However, personal opinion here, with the amount of damage that DPS players, especially Thanatos, are dealing, um, shield maybe. I mean, I'd say it's very situational. I mean, Fighting weak opponents, yeah, it's a good thing. It's a big thing, right? I mean, but when you are really aiming for top 600, building Nidhogg as a DPS or to deal more damage so that you can generate a bigger value of the shield, maybe not so advisable because they're just gonna wipe through your shield in a very very quick span of time. Mm, Some people just plain out build this at DPS, which I think is much more viable rather than increasing damage just so you can have a shield. Now you may think it's the same, but if you just really look at the finer details on how you're gonna make that build, I think it's gonna deviate at some point. But yeah, if you're planning to build Nidhogg as damage, purely damage, maybe it will turn out a little bit better than building it as a support, but then integrating a damage factor in it just for the sole purpose of generating shields. Now, before we move on to the next item, the level 7, which I don't have yet, level 7 of it also automatically triggers Streamer of Fallen Knight. Basically, as long as Nidhogg does skill damage or when any of her linked allies deals damage, it automatically procs Streamer of Fallen Knight, which, as you can guess, will also generate a shield. Now, I don't have that, I can show it to you, but yeah, that's how it works. Okay, third one, and you probably already know this, but Wicked Sunflower Star Card and Unlimited works on Nightfall Streamer. This is the reason why Unlimited is always snapping, aside from it really being a good weapon overall. But yeah, there's a line in the code for um, streamer of whatever Nightfall Streamer, which is basically range dam. Range dam is a parameter that Unlimited and Wicked Sunflower Star Card uses. This is only present in select AoE magic skills. Okay, I'm saying select because it's just a code there. It's not a hard rule, right? And if the devs decide to remove it, then it will not be included. So it's not a hard rule that every AoE has this, right? It's just if it's there, it's there. But yeah, Unlimited and Wicked Sunflower Star Card works in Nightfall Streamer. Okay, next item. Life Force, which is Nidhogg's healing skill, is affected by Holy Attack, just like Heal. If you haven't forgotten what Heal is. Um, so yeah, apart from using Int and Magic Attack, some of the multipliers of Life Force also includes, Holy Attack, which is your holy damage value. I wouldn't really say you would have to gear towards that, but it's just something good to know. So if you're planning to go Nidhogg and you haven't maximized your blessing in the guild for holy damage yet, probably want to do that. Okay, fifth one. Flower Guardian reduction again is final reduction as well. Sort of again. Um, this the reduction from this, I'm a little bit on the fence on whether it is good or not, but it is final damage reduction, like what I said, right? I mean, Fetters uses Dragon Reduct. This one uses Tree Reduct, which again is a conditional multiplication at the end of the formula. The thing here, though, is there's a condition, and so your enemy has to be outside of the circle it generates, so that the damage reduction falls into place. I think the skill description in the actual game may probably be not clear enough. I think when I talked to people, they were under the impression that you guys have to bundle up, right? You have to compress, so that every one of you will get the reduction. Well, it's true that it's better if you guys are close to one another. You don't necessarily have to do that because when you link with a draconic tribe, it basically generates two AoEs, one on you and one on your draconic tribe. Which means if you use Ragnarok or Twilight of the Gods and you make all of your party part of your draconic tribe, it generates an AoE on all of them. Now that's double edged, right? One is it's good because it creates reduction, but the other one is the buff, if you see here, um, the skill or the AoE, it grants a buff for you right, which provides a damage reduction, and for your enemy to serve as the conditional flag on whether the damage reduction will take place or not. Now, buff 136581 is what decides whether it will take effect or not. If you see at the third picture here, if the source of the damage does not have this buff ID, then and the target user has this buff ID, then this reduction will trigger. Now, if there's a lot of you, if there's a lot of these fields, then your attacker doesn't necessarily have to stand in the circle where you're on. And so this generates some opportunities. Like, for example, if it's an SPX and he does soul depravity while standing inside one of these AoEs, then it means all amongst all of you in the party, the reduction of Flower Guardian will not work. At least that's how I understood it. There are some good parts to it, right? I mean, like, for example, you can really save your allies, especially if most of your attackers are ranged or if your allies are ranged. I think this would be very perfect for babysitting an SPSH in Magic Prison, right? This could also serve as a good reduction source when you're a ball holder in Magic Prison. You could apply some strategies to ensure that your enemy doesn't really get too close to you, um, or at least doesn't go into the AoE. But yeah, this is final damage reduction. Now you may be wondering, how does this interact with Fetters? Now Fetters, I think is about 35% or so at most, and this one I think is about 60%, right? So you probably would want to get damage multiplied by 1 minus 35%, multiplied by 1 minus 65%. I did the math in my brain just a while ago. Should be roughly around 75% reduction. So by nearly getting, so but just by getting Fetters to max level and then getting Flower Guardian, it already reduces final damage by about 74 to 75% or so. Okay, so as long as they don't get inside Flower Guardian, you have a fairly decent amount of reduction for you and your Draconic tribe. I think this is one of the reasons why um, the damage build may, to a certain extent, still retain a decent amount of survivability while dishing out decent amount of damage. Because, and I'm not going to talk about this now, um, the new skill that replaces Frost Armor, which is Light Armor, sits perfectly with this combo. Okay, the last one. Judgement Light, that's a passive. The effect triggers during attacks that deals damage. So you need to be able to deal damage for it to clear the buffs. Now, only statuses that can be dispersed are cleared, and it happens at the rate of one per occurrence, which means if you have multiple statuses on you, not all of them gets cleared at once. It randomly clears one at a time. Okay, so for you to know, right? So the type of the buff or the debuff has to be dispersed, which means it needs to have a value of one in the dispersed tag. Um, I haven't done an in-depth discussion about these yet, but there are there's a tagging in the buff where it basically tells you whether it is something that can be dispersed or not. Here's a short list. No, this is a rather long list. I'm going to go through all of them. There's a combination of positive and negative buffs. Obviously, Judgment Light doesn't trigger the positive buffs on you. Instead, it just triggers, sorry, it clears the negative buffs on you whenever it procs. Again, there's a mixture of several buffs. Don't pay attention. There's just way too much to enumerate all of them. Okay, that's it. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Hope you learned something new today, and I wish this will help you rather in deciding whether you want to use Nidhogg as your new main class. Thanks everyone for watching, and I see you on our next video.